Hey all, nature-tribe.org video here. We're going to show you some very short clips from the Titusville City Council meeting about the tree ordinance. And we're going to play a little game, and the game's called, Does This Make Any Sense to You? If you like this or you find it important, please share it as much as you can. Thanks. Hope you enjoy this.
We currently have an approach in our landscape code that talks about preservation of 10% in residential.
Okay, when she talks about 10% in residential, she means currently the developers are allowed to completely clear cut, scrape every living thing off of a site if they're going to put commercial or industrial. But the 10% about residential is vegetation, not trees. Just any living thing, 10%.
Just want to remind again, when we first started this, we asked for low-hanging fruit. We've gone beyond that. I remember we started with trees, preserving the trees. We all say we want to preserve trees as much as possible. And then someone came up with canopy, which I knew nothing about. I understand it now, but I knew nothing about it. Now look like we're expanding based on the red lines I see. We're talking about industrial and commercial areas when we were only talking about, what do you call it, the residential. First, so I'm not interested in commercial and industrial. I will tell you that now. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm just looking at what's happening around me in the industrial area now, even though there's some trees and everything. I looked at it and I thought to myself, man, we're going to put a big building here, and right in the middle of it may be something mandatory that we, in my mind, foolishly said we needed to do, and it's preventing the developer, the business, from getting a return on their investment.
So to be clear, we're saying there's an imaginary lot that has a huge heritage tree right in the center of the lot. Not that this lot exists, it's an imaginary lot, but that means we can't regulate any commercial, even if there's a huge heritage tree on, let's say, the edge of the lot. Does that make sense?
I am really not interested in industrial and commercial, and I think we should just strike that and do exactly what we said in the beginning, which we all agreed to, and that really was what was it again?
Heritage trees?
Heritage trees.
No, the development.
Oh, residential.
Also, residential, thank you. I told you I'm getting sleepy, so I don't.
And it seems like a long time ago now. We had more finite vision, and then clearly we have a care, a concern for trees, or we wouldn't have had so much input from so many committees, because we don't just represent the tree people. We don't just represent the developers. We represent 47,000 people.
So all these Titusville citizens, aka the tree people, have been going to these meetings for 2 years now. But you know, the council doesn't just represent those tree huggers, they represent the developers who don't live in Titusville. Does that make sense? Do developers vote for city council members? And yeah, there are 47,000 citizens of Titusville, and they don't come to these meetings. Maybe they are not even off work yet. Maybe they got off work and have to pick up their kids at daycare or make dinner or check their homework or something. But where's the proof that they are all for clear cutting of trees, that they're all into polluted stormwater in the river and dead manatees? This doesn't make sense.
To Member Jordan's point, trying to get that low-hanging fruit and moving forward on some wins that we can do right now, I'm looking at this from 5 different things: canopy, the heritage trees, waivers and appeals, incentives, and mitigation requirements. That's from my perspective of what I feel like we can potentially adjust, amend, or residential only.
So here's something funny about that low-hanging fruit metaphor. People who pick fruit say it's a terrible idea. Henry Rueda, who has picked apples for 30 years in orchards around Yakima, Washington, says it does not make any sense. You always need to start by picking apples from the top of the tree, never the lowest hanging fruit first. That's a real bad idea. To reach the top of the trees, you must climb a ladder. As you go, you carry a bag wrapped around your neck and shoulder in which you dump the fruits. If you pick the low-hanging fruits first, you'd have to work your way up the ladder with an increasingly heavy load. Here's Glenn Lucas, General Manager of the British Columbia Fruit Growers Association, talking about the same thing. To be equitable, a harvester of fruit trees should pick the entire tree and not leave the difficult, less productive picking to others. Furthermore, picking low-hanging fruits instead of those higher up could have a detrimental impact on the ecosystem. In taller apple trees, the fruit that is high up, exposed to the sun, ripens the fastest. Low-hanging fruit doesn't get much sun, and it's not as ripe as the higher fruit. You want to pick the low-hanging fruit last, so it has more time to develop. So I'm not trying to belabor the point, but wouldn't that increasingly heavy bag around our necks be a perfect metaphor for a dying lagoon, like the Indian River Lagoon? As the lagoon spirals further into its death throes, the job of trying to keep it alive gets harder. It gets heavier. We should be picking the fruit at the top of the tree that isn't easy. It's not low-hanging fruit, but it's more productive. It's more likely to make an impact. The second guy I quoted in this is a businessman. He makes the point that we shouldn't leave the more difficult work for others to do. Isn't that what the council members are suggesting, though? They get the credit for picking the low-hanging fruit, which doesn't correct the problem, and they leave the mess of a dying lagoon and starving manatees for others to solve sometime in the future. Someone else will have to pick the higher fruit, or maybe they'll let it rot and die. See, fruit tree picking is based on science, on reality, not tired old slogans or head-in-the-sand refusal to confront serious problems. It's based on science and logic, what actually makes sense.
Vice Mayor.
I'm going to disagree with Member Jordan, Member Stokel. I don't have a problem with requiring trees on commercial and industrial. And I had up Brevard County. I think Brevard County requires 35%. It was something.
No, ma'am, not
Well,
according
it
to,
wasn't Brevard County. It was
Oh.
Port Richey.
could be. There are places that do require that. Brevard County actually allows less in industrial than they do commercial and residential.
And I can understand that, but on the other hand, I don't think we should turn around and say, well, it's industrial property, let's just clear cut the whole thing. And especially because we are allowing developers, owners to come in and say, hey, there's this huge tree in the middle, we need to get rid of it. And we can get rid of it if there's no other way around it. But I don't, to come in and just clean everything out and say, I don't need to put anything on this property, I think that's just crazy. I mean, we're talking about, we're looking for a town that has appeal. To me, my vision was always Winter Park. I want to live in Winter Park, and I don't want to live in Miami. You know, so to say that these pieces of property, we're just going to clear cut them, we don't care, I don't think we should do that.
Wait, what? Someone on the city council just made sense. Not surprising. Jolyn Nelson was a prosecuting attorney, folks. She knows logic when she hears it and when she speaks it. If you liked this video, please share it. It's a lot of work to make this, and I don't want to waste my time. But if it gets some traction, if it helps some people understand what we're up against, then it's very worthwhile because we've got to save that lagoon. Join Central Florida Nature Tribe on Facebook and bookmark naturetribe.org. And just for the record, folks, I'm not anti-Titusville City Council. I'm not anti-development. I'm for low-impact development. I know the council members work hard. I know their jobs are difficult, and I do appreciate them. But we need, right now, some courageous leadership. We have to put the rights of the citizens of Titusville and the rights of the Indian River Lagoon and everything that lives in it, we've got to put those before the rights of the developers. The two aren't equal. We can't bring the river back once it's gone. We can always look for new development. Okay? So what I'm saying is we need a little bit of courage here. We need people to start making sense and being truthful and thinking outside the box and forgetting about the low-hanging fruit right now. That's what I'm asking for, and I hope that you agree.